Assistant Principal in Near School for Inquiry, Investigation, and Innovation. As the Assistant Principal and Testing Coordinator, it is an imperative that I know what assessments are being implemented and the data we gain from them. This year, I started the school year out with giving each of the teachers the Halls County School District testing calendar. This testing calendar allowed me to kind of see the pacing guide of where we are each month and which assessments are going to be given throughout the year. This allowed us, my instructional coach, my principal, and myself, and my leadership team to talk about specific points along the way, benchmarks, dates of when we could talk about different types of data. In order for this data to be useful, we had to teach the teachers what it means. This means breaking down the results and asking what's next for each of the students, whether it's the struggling students, the on-track students, or your excelling students. This year, the Hall County School District implemented the MAP assessment for the first time to all K-5 classrooms. This data has given us a starting point for when we begin triangulating data and discussing what our students know and what they still need to know. At Lanier, we have strategically been placing data digs throughout the year. One way we discuss with our teachers of keeping things up to date and having discussions and staying organized and planning with our assessments and students in mind is to have data dig sign up times. Each semester, we have had each 9 weeks, we have had a time where we've set aside one planning period with our teachers, each teacher in the school building, to discuss their students and the data and what it means next. What's next for each student? The way that we are talking with each of these teachers and communicating and staying organized and intentional is making sure that they know of each upcoming date. We utilize a Wildcat Weekly, which goes out bi-weekly to each of the people in the building. They see the dates specifically for our tier meetings, our RTI meetings, our milestone meetings, and specifically if it's a grade level meeting and we're going to have data chats. We'll break down the times for the teachers and they know plenty of time ahead. One of the other things that we do is make sure that the teachers are aware of looking at their data. Some of this data includes ways that we keep ourselves organized is by keeping a school-wide assessment data folder. Each grade level has a folder, as you can see, and they collect different types of data on the students. For the kindergartners, we keep up with letter names, and then once letter names and letter sounds are become mastered, students move on to the phonograms assessments, where there's 4 lists, and we assess them in February, March, April, and so on, as you can see. Each grade level has a different type of assessment in their folder, depending on, obviously, what they're being assessed. First grade, this last time we discussed with them, they wanted to talk about the Eureka Math module, as you can see here. We broke down each of the questions for them, had them discuss whether they made a 1, 2, 3, or 4 on there. And during our data, we made sure that the teachers knew ahead of time what questions we would be asking them. What are your students? How are you reteaching? Who are your focus students? What are you going to be doing with the ones that are struggling? How can you remediate? This way, teachers know exactly what they need to stop and start doing for each time. It is so important to continue to stay organized in this position. We have to be forward thinking. We have to be thinking about, okay, thank you. We have this information. What's next? Where do we go from here? Where do we go with our gifted students, with our average students, and with our below average students each time? Being intentional and having teachers identify a minimum of 3 students and then writing those names down in their grade book or in their planning books each time really helps teachers focus and make it more personable for them. I'm very thankful for this position and for what I get to do, but I also know how important it is. And the best piece of advice I've ever been given so far throughout my career and my life is to be intentional and consistent. Asking teachers to be intentional with identifying those students' names and being consistent about consistently moving them and checking in on them daily on what their needs are can truly impact a student's life. At this point in the year, we're not just talking around the kids but we are specifically talking about students and their needs. Being intentional about the unit and the unit assessments we will be discussing helps to ensure teachers are intentional about dissecting the standards and how these standards need to be taught to students. Each grade level focused on something different, and I'm thankful for my principal and my assistant, my instructional coach for helping with all of this. Thank you for your time.